Good morning, Vinyl community. So, as you all know, I recently did a video regarding Mastodon and a sort of a spotlight on those guys. Now, I took part in, as I mentioned before, the live stream with Jason Skills and several other people. And I had mentioned a few things, like, we got talking about different bands, different artists, and so on. And I was on Rachel the Music Mam's live stream, like just in the comments, not actually in the stream, but I was on in the comments and talking about a band that I'm going to do the spotlight on now. And that's this band. Unfold this shirt. This is Down. So this shirt here was from the Quarter Century Throwdown 2020 worldwide live stream. Because, as you know, things that are going on. So I wanted to kind of talk about it for those who are not aware of the band and what they do and who's in the band, who they're consisted of. So basically and of course you get to see me looking off to the side here a little bit because I do tend to take notes. For those who are just getting into my channel, thank you for all the subs. It's been great checking up on everybody's channels and so on. But because a lot of the people in the live streams that I talked about, people were like, I've never heard of these guys. It's like, now in fairness to Jason's stream, they're more into punk. There's a lot of punk rockers, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So basically, formed in 1991, this band Down, consisting of vocalist Phil Anselmo from Pantera, guitarist Pepper Keenan, Corrosion of Conformity, Kirk Weinstein, Crowbar, and Pat Bruders. Now, Pat Bruders has been in Crowbar and a couple other bands. But he was also, Pat joined later on, but I'll get to that. So the first bass player was Todd Strange, who has also been in Crowbar. Seems to be a lot of bass players that come from Crowbar and so on, which is fine. And after Todd, there was Rex Brown from Pantera. And of course, the master on the drums, Jimmy Bauer Bauer. Now these guys are all friends in the New Orleans scene, and they were all major fans of Trouble, Saint and Fighters, Witchfinder General, Black Sabbath, all of that kind of thing. And of course, Jimmy Bauer is from I Hate God. Now, so they began to jam, or they began in obviously 91 jamming, and wrote a 3-track demo. And so the story goes that when they got together, it was mostly just Phil and Pepper, and they just got together, and Pep showed up at the rehearsal space, and Phil took this great big white sort of sheet and spray painting down on it. And once they got the 3-track demo done, they basically took it. The two of them went out and were just talking to people. And were like, "Yeah, man, have you ever heard of this band called Down? They're really, really cool." And they never said who was in the band. So people started trading the tapes and CDs and all this jazz. It started to take off. And then once people found out who was in it, that's when it really took off from there. So I'm going to show, I got 2 records here. One is actually, I have one of the CD cases in my vehicle, so that's not going to be shown today, but that's okay because, that's just life. So the debut record, which I do not have, and I'm still on the hunt to try and find that. That's not exactly the easiest thing to find. Down one, I guess you could call it, is NOLA. Now, their debut full-length record was released in 1995, and what a full-length demo. With songs such as Temptation's Wings, Hail the Leaf, which I'm sure you're aware of what that's about. Stone the Crow, which is probably by far one of the bigger tracks that the band's known for, which is kind of a slower tune, really, really melodic, but still heavy at the same time. And of course, one of a lot of people's favorite songs is Bury Me in Smoke. They forged this sort of doom stoner sludge groove sound that is rivaled, yet it's not ever duplicated by many bands. And they've been trying to duplicate it, but then really you're just not going to be able to duplicate what these guys do, because it's literally the five dudes from New Orleans. They've got that sound, and it's really, really, it's not the easiest thing to mimic, I'll tell you that. So this record, of course, it was praised by many people in the music media, journalists, etc. And it recently turned 25 last summer, as you saw from my t-shirt. And the band got back together to put on the 25th century, quarter century throwdown. And this was the record that featured Todd Strange on bass. Hello, obviously this hasn't kicked in yet. He left shortly out, about 4 short years later, in 1999. So the record that preceded that was Down 2, A Bustle in Your Hedgerow, which, of course, as anybody who knows Led Zeppelin, you know that's, from Stairway to Heaven. So after leaving, as I said, in 1999, Todd Strange was then replaced by Rex Brown of Pantera. So this record was done in Phil's barn, which he's dubbed Nosferatu's lair, in a booze and heavily drug-induced haze. Now the record, of course, while it did receive rave reviews and positive reviews based on the same sort of, sort of similar to what Down 1 Nola received, there was one comment that really stuck out to me, and I'm going to bring this up here right now. B. Kurgan from Blabbermouth, he also I believe he also runs one of the other labels too. He stated that Down 2 appears to be thrown together more haphazardly, with much of the material falling short that was set by, Nola, which is 100% true. While I do like that record, it is the very first record that I ever heard from Down. Ghost Along the Mississippi, Lysergic Funeral Procession being the first 2 Down songs I ever heard, and I was really hooked on the band. I did kind of move away from them a little while, but at the same time I came back to them, obviously, as a lot of you guys know. Basically, the thing is I think when you listen to the production on that record, it's not exactly as strong. It's got a real raw sound, and yes, because there was a lot of drugs and a lot of booze going around, it kind of was sort of thrown together to have a second record, because Nola was like getting 4.5, 5 out of 5 record reviews. People were blowing it up. It was crazy. Because it's like, how can you literally have these 5 dudes in the same band and not have a killer record? Of course, in 2002, they split up to work on their respective bands, because that's the big thing about Down, is that they're literally 5 members of 5 different bands, or in Phil's case, like 20 different bands, and they wanted to go back to their original projects, which is fine. Down 3, which is this record here, which I do own on vinyl and I've showed many times, Over the Under, featuring songs like one called Three Suns and One Star, which I love, The Path, N.O.D., Ice Cream, On March the Saints, Never Try, Mourn, Beneath the Tides, His Majesty, The Desert, Pyramid, In the Thrall of It All, and Nothing in Return, and in brackets, Walk Away. It's a great record. Great record. That's actually a gatefold. This was released on Roadrunner Records in 2007, because the band reformed in 2006 4 short years later. Now that actually took over a year to record. It was released on September 25th of 2007. A lot of the lyrical content comes from the breakup of Pantera, Hurricane Katrina, Dimebag's murder, Phil's back surgery, and overcoming his heroin addiction that, was really, really affecting him completely. You know, the record received positive reviews and came in at number 26 on the Billboard 200. Sorry, just thought the fan was coming downstairs. And I actually received that as a Christmas gift, and it was probably like one of my favorite Christmas gifts I've ever received. So, moving on to 2008. In 2008, Phil stated in an interview that there was six or so songs that didn't make Over the Under. And in March 2009, they posted a statement that they were heading back into the studio October through November to write and record what would become Down 4. Is it necessarily true in this case? Unfortunately, the tour that followed would be without Rex Brown to start the tour due to having severe pancreatitis. Having issues also with Warner Brothers, which is their label at the time, they were regarding the rights to the music. They did eventually get a chance to release a live record called Diary of a Mad Band, which was an amazing record. There's a live DVD. It's just, the band was just really kicking ass at that point in time. So, Down 4, Part 1 and Part 2. So another break for the band, of course, and another lineup change. So Phil had been asked in a lot of interviews regarding the future of Down, to which he said there's always going to be time for Down. In May 2011, they recorded a brand new tune, and in June of said year, they played the Download Festival. Rex was not in the band for those shows due to his health and ongoing other issues. Pat Bruder filled in for those shows. A short while later, Keenan had stated he won't be with us for these shows, and of course he's got other things to deal with. On the 20th, literally 11 days later, on the 22nd of June, Jimmy stated that Rex was no longer in the band and Pat was a full-time member, as he had been and has been with the band since then. 11 years to be exact. So, they were initially recording 4 EPs, Part 1 being released September 18th of 2012, and Part 2 released May 13th of 2014. But then it was shot down by Phil, and he said it would be quite pretentious to do such a thing. So in 2013, Kurt left the band to focus on other things, as well as Crowbar, getting Crowbar back on track, and just, other day-to-day life things. And he was replaced for 6 years by Bobby Landgraf, who left in 2019, and I'll get to that. And he was the second guitarist on Part 2. So this is the album that I have, which this is Down 4, Part 2. Now, Part 1 has got like the one big track that I remember the most from that is Witch Stripper. And this one here, and that one also has Open Coffins and a couple other. This here's got Steeple, We Knew Him Well, Hogshead, Dog's Head, Sufferer's Years, Bacchanalia, and probably one of the slowest and doomiest tracks that the band's ever done in Conjure. If you get a chance, please check that track. I think you guys will like it. So from 2018 to present, and following the release of Over the Under, they wanted to talk about the follow-up record that would, full length, that would, follow up Over the Under, of course. So Phil basically, and this is literally a word, this is word from the interview. I have to focus on new stuff for the time being, because really, to clear it up and make it loud and clear for everyone, when Down got together, we knew we were a band that was made up of other bands. It's always been out of brotherhood and love that when any of our real bands, such as Corrosion Conformity, I Hate God, specifically get on a roll, And even Pantera, when it was still going up until it stopped being a band, they always made room for that band. They always made room for Down. A tour like for Superjoint, for what it's worth, when Superjoint is working, there's no real time for Down. Of course, it's a complete and just, I think, clear, very crystal clear understanding between all of us that the day will come when things will slow down and we feel primed enough and ready for it, and moods will alter as they do over time, even musically. If you play certain songs, no matter what band you're in, if you play those songs enough times and enough nights in a row, night after night, you're going to want to change tastes here and there. Yes, we will record another Down record. Everybody's committed to it. It's just right now, everybody's committed to it, like at that stage. But then, of course, in 2019, the band stated they would reunite for a series of shows that took place between June 18th and the 21st in Dessel, Belgium. And, of course, in anticipated for the 25th anniversary for Nola, Kirk did return permanently to the band on guitar. So even though this seems like a big sort of like, wow, that was a lot of information, it is, because they've gone through so much, because they have so many other things going on with their other respective bands. I Hate God put out a new record, so Down stopped after that show. It kind of stopped. Philip H. Anselmo and the Illegals. You know, Kirk's got Crowbar, and Pat's also with them, I think, too. You know, Jim's, you know, all of these other bands, once the original bands start to pick back up, Down goes down, or, you know, back down. And that's, it. And the thing is, it's not any sort of bad thing. It's just, Down's been a side project, but it's been a very successful side project. So that's the thing. And I also wanted to point out, too, for Jason Skills, that I wore my Jason I Wish It Was Friday shirt, because in his April Fool's Day video, he had Freddie on. So basically, at the end of the day, when it comes to Down, I've been a fan of them for many, many years. What I really do need to get, because I've got Over the Under and I've got the Down Force Part 2 EP on vinyl, and I have the Part 1 EP on CD, I would like to get a hold of, obviously, A Bustle in Your Hedgerow and Nola. You know, those two records. Once I get those, I'll be good to go. I might pick up the Diary of a Madman thing. I've watched it with a buddy of mine. I've listened to it before on streaming sites, YouTube, etc., etc. But we'll see. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate that. I'll be working on a couple other spotlights over the next little bit. We'll see. A couple bands I want to get into, but, you know, obviously time is going to be the issue. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great Easter, and I'll see you in the next one. And possibly even in another stream. You never know.